The Man and the Trash Can, a short story. I sat on my lunch break reading. Although the book was great, I couldn't help noticing the real people. The rush of the supermarket was constant. The sliding doors were too small. One person had to wait for another to walk through, each taking turns. Despite the cramped entrance, everyone made it through. I finished a page and then looked up. The Red Bull I drank had turned warm. The man walked in. He was severely hunched with a rounded spine. Walking with despair, he held a stoic charisma and blended in. I had seen him before. I watched him pace around the deli and entrance. The man was homeless and burnt to a crisp. The sun had been his only light. I read another page as he disappeared into the crowd. Nobody seemed to notice him. I did. I wanted to say, "Hey Richard, how have you been?" He looked more broken than ever. I didn't think I could help him. Not seeing me, that was my excuse to act as if I hadn't seen him. Richard walked back to the cafe near the door. Sitting down in front of me, I watched him again. His upper spine was round like a turtle. The flesh covering his bones looked like burnt leather. His presence disturbed and fascinated me. Richard made no eye contact or conversation with anyone. The trash can sat next to him, gawking. I felt as indifferent as that can of trash as I watched him helpless in my own world. What was worse, me seeing him and saying nothing, or was it the indifference and ignoring faces that passed by him as if he was invisible? I thought about the callous indifference of the crowd, including me. I thought about the fear that crippled us. "This will be my last day," he seemed to say. He sat on the chair, hunched over and broken. "That rotisserie chicken is too expensive. I'm $2 short," Richard thought. "My back hurts, my skin hurts, my lungs hurt. I can't walk on these broken feet another day. The vegetables look good, but I would have to eat them raw. Maybe I should buy an apple," he wondered. I watched him as he took solace in the 5 minutes he spent inside from the blistering sun. Maybe he didn't want to return to the homeless shelter. "I'm so tired," Richard thought, "and I just want some food. Something that tastes good and will get me going. There must be something in here," he thought, looking at the garbage can, "and it's free." I watched Richard as he cradled his head, his deformed and defeated spine hovering over the table in front of me. Richard spoke to himself, a possible schizophrenic, muttering silently to himself as he shook his head in deranged, solitary conversation. He then stood up slowly. "Fuck it," Richard thought. "This is it, or I'm going to drop dead tonight." Easing toward the sliding door, he stopped, reaching into the garbage. I watched him as he scrounged a piece of watermelon. It was covered in rind and barely enough for one person to eat. I watched as he carried the hapless watermelon. There was barely any fruit in the indigestible scavenge he had achieved. Richard walked out into the unknown. I wanted to chase after him and say, "Do you need some food, man, or some money to buy food? You don't have to grapple through the trash." As I had watched him earlier, I was going to reach for my wallet as I had done some times before. Maybe some cash would help Richard, or just buy him some food. Instead, I sat there in defeat, fear, and the inability to help him. I was as lost as he was. I admired him for his stoic secrecy and his silence in the crowd, the way he paced around in immutable defeat. Lost in his insanity, I watched him suffer alone. I too suffered. Maybe I will see him again. Thank you.